Hello everyone. Welcome to the lectures of this self-knowledge course. Today we are going to see a very important conference, since in this, we are going to give some guidelines on how to correctly pronounce the mantras to achieve astral projection. Mantras are words of power, the sound of which generates specific vibrations in our body. There are mantras for different purposes, but today we are going to talk about some mantras that serve to accelerate the process of detachment of the astral body from the physical body when we are practicing astral projection. The idea is that we can become aware when this unfolding process occurs and take advantage of it. Then we will be able to get out of bed already unfolded and move at will in the fifth dimension of nature, or astral world. In the third lesson of this course, we talked extensively about astral projection. We saw various techniques to achieve it. And in lesson 37, we saw a very interesting technique to achieve astral projection using the law of correspondences through the jump technique. Today we are going to focus directly on the mantralization technique, or pronunciation of mantras. But first we are going to briefly talk about what astral projection is, so that we get into the context, and so that if someone has not seen those previous topics, they at least know what astral projection is about. When we talk about astral projection, we are talking about bringing out an inner double or soul, a body exactly the same as the physical one, but that is not cellular in nature like the physical one, but rather is molecular in nature. Since this body is lighter in nature, it can float, fly, stretch, pass through walls, etc. But what is really important is that we understand that astral projection is not a metaphysical, paranormal, strange phenomenon, or one that only happens to some particular people. But it really is a completely natural phenomenon, which happens to each of us every time we fall asleep, since it is a normal part of our biological and psychological functioning. When the physical body falls asleep, it is recharged by the vital part. But this process of recharging the physical body wouldn't be possible if there is not a process of unfolding, in which our psyche, or soul, leaves the physical body, to move in the fifth dimension. If that unstoppable train of thoughts and emotions remains within the physical body, it couldn't be recharged. During astral projection, both the physical body and the consciousness of the physical body remain in bed, while the soul, clothed in the astral body, goes out to the fifth dimension. And we move there with the consciousness of the astral body. But we must know that the astral body always remains connected to the physical body by the silver cord. The silver cord is an energetic thread, practically unbreakable, because it can only be cut by the ray of death at the moment the person dies. And through this cord, the physical body receives information from the astral body, such as the sensations that are experienced on that plane, as in the case of the nocturnal emissions that we talked about in lecture 46. And at the same time the astral body, through this cord, receives information from the physical body. Like when someone calls us, or touches us on the physical plane, or when the alarm goes off, or any other activity that, on the physical plane, calls us to return from the astral to the physical, what we call waking up. Immediately the astral body enters the physical body, we wake up. Probably you have already experienced that when it occurs very suddenly or quickly, you feel for a moment a vibration throughout your body. That is a pretty similar sensation to what is experienced when detachment process is occurring when consciously unfolding yourself to the astral plane. Now, why are we not aware of this unfolding process when we fall asleep daily? Precisely because of how asleep our consciousness is. Although projecting ourselves onto the astral plane is a natural process, and we do it every night, the vast majority of people do it unconsciously. And the purpose of talking about this topic, and teaching these techniques, is so that we develop the ability to make this entire process conscious, and that we begin to be able to realize when this process occurs. That we begin to no longer simply pass into the world of dreams, or astral plane, as we have been doing all along, completely fascinated, and asleep in the unconsciousness of projecting our unconscious desires in the astral plane. And that we begin to stop just going there to mechanically project the same things we do during the day, to continue doing them during sleep. The point is that we begin to become aware and learn to move at will on the astral plane. And for what purpose? Well, it turns out that on the astral plane, that is when we find ourselves in the world of eternity, we can carry out very important investigations in relation to our inner work. On the astral plane, we can connect directly with the higher parts of our consciousness, that is, with our real inner being, as well as communicate with self-realized masters who can give us direction and guidance. On the astral plane, we can also visit temples of wisdom and visit different places outside and inside this planet. On the astral plane, we can also investigate the details that make up our ego or psychological defects. We can see the progress we are making in our inner work, and many more things related to our spiritual development. Something that we must discard in order to be successful in astral projection are certain concepts or beliefs that there are dangers in this practice. There really is no additional danger to the one we have run into every day when we have gone to sleep. Since doing this process consciously doesn't make it more dangerous at all, quite the opposite. And the only dangers we have faced every time we have gone to sleep are in relation to the theft of energy that we can face if we don't protect ourselves with psychological death and protection conjurations. Like, for example, when we have nightmares, and through our fear, negative entities absorb a lot of energy from us, or when they steal sexual energy from us, through sleep paralysis that occurs through the fourth dimension, or directly through erotic scenes in dreams. But all those beliefs that if you unfold yourself, you can get lost there, or that someone else can enter our body, or that we can go back upside down, or any of other many concepts, are false, and only serve to prevent us from developing this important practice. All those concepts are completely unfounded, since we always return to our physical body attracted by the silver cord. So, the important thing is that we start practicing until we achieve it. All of us, absolutely all of us, have the possibility of consciously projecting ourselves to the astral plane. For some it is easier than for others, because they have developed the ability in past lives, or even some have already created a solar astral body in past lives. And it is likely that it has happened to them, that they have consciously involuntarily projected themselves onto the astral plane on several occasions in their lives. But, even if it has never happened to you, or if it doesn't work out on your first attempts, you must continue practicing with discipline and perseverance until you achieve it. It is important to break with all those misconceptions that we have, that astral projection is difficult, or that it is dangerous, because these concepts will block us from being able to make conscious what happens to us every day naturally, but unconsciously. Having explained this, let's recap some of the techniques that exist to achieve conscious astral projection. There is the technique by concentration. This consists of concentrating on something. It can be, for example, concentrating on our breathing, or on the heartbeat, or on the objective we want to achieve in the astral, etc. And do not let that thoughts, emotions, or sensations distract us from what we are concentrating on. Whatever appears, we let it pass, we don't pay attention to it, and we maintain concentration until we feel the symptoms of astral projection. The second technique is with imagination. In this technique, we imagine a scenario, and we seek to consciously move to that place. For example, we vividly imagine a place, as detailed and vivid as we can imagine it. We imagine that place in great detail, while the physical body falls asleep, and then we will appear consciously unfolded in that place. We could also imagine, while the physical body is falling asleep, that a rope comes out of the ceiling above our bed, and that we begin to climb it with our hands. Once the physical body falls asleep, we will feel the astral body come out climbing that rope, and we will find ourselves consciously unfolded in the fifth dimension. In this way, we can also use conscious imagination to move to the astral plane. Another technique is the sleep vigil. And this is a very good technique for people who fall asleep very easily. It consists of being attentive to all the symptoms that the body experiences while falling asleep. And observe how, upon entering the plane of dreams, certain sounds begin to be heard, and vivid moving images begin to appear. At that moment, we make the effort to consciously enter that movie that is being projected, and in this way, we will consciously enter the astral plane. There we can move at will and pursue the goal we have set for ourselves. Another very good technique is by dying from moment to moment, that is by practicing psychological death while falling asleep. This technique is very good because psychological death practiced moment by moment allows us to release consciousness and helps us remain in a state of conscious alert. So, just as during the day we should be in self-observation and asking our Divine Mother to eliminate every psychological defect that manifests in us, in the form of thought, tension, emotion, sensation, etc., to keep living in the present moment and being aware of ourselves all the time. Likewise, if we continue doing this practice when we are about to move to the astral plane, then we will have very good results. And the last technique, and the one I am going to detail today, is by chanting mantras. This technique is usually very effective, because as I said at the beginning, it will allow us to perceive the symptoms of unfolding more easily, because each of these mantras has a specific vibration that will help us in this process. Today we are going to talk about 5 mantras that are very effective for astral projection. And we will explain how each one should be pronounced. Something that is very important to keep in mind is that we should only use one mantra per practice, since each one has a different vibration, and we should not mix them. If we do the projection practice again the next day or at another time, we can choose another mantra, but not during the same practice. And a very important point is that we should not lengthen the mantra too much when pronouncing it, but rather lengthen it for a maximum of 6 seconds, which is more or less the duration of the natural exhalation. This is so that we can quickly fall asleep physically, while consciousness remains active on the astral plane. With this in mind, let's quickly go over the steps for astral projection. The first thing is, and this is very important, always before going to bed, we must do the conjuration of the Bellalin and the magic circle that we learned in Lesson 7. If any of you haven't seen that lecture, you can look for the video of Lesson 7 in the video section of the page. This is important for us to protect the physical body from any attempts that external negative entities may make to disturb us or to steal our energy. The next thing is to always ask for assistance and guidance from our Father and our Divine Mother, so that the higher parts of our consciousness are the ones who direct us during the practice and help us to be successful in it. And at that moment, we put in our heart 3 times the objective that we will pursue in the astral. This point is very important, so that once we find ourselves consciously unfolded in the astral plane, we remember and have a clear idea of where to go and what specific information to look for. This way we won't be left wandering aimlessly, and we won't end up losing our state of consciousness and start dreaming. Then we do a good relaxation. We begin by relaxing the mind, seeking to listen for a moment to the sounds that surround us, but we don't identify with them, but rather we listen to them, let them go, and look for a more distant sounds each time. In this way we will experience how the mind becomes silent and calms down. Then we move on to relaxing the emotion, and we do it by breathing. Inhaling slowly and long through the nose, holding it a little, and exhaling quickly and briefly through the mouth, imagining how all the emotional pressure we carry comes out with the exhalation. And then, we move on to relaxing the physical body, imagining how a bright light invades every part of our body and relaxes it. And then we command the physical body to relax and calm down. We can repeat this process of relaxing the physical body about 3 times, until we feel that we are well relaxed. Being correctly relaxed guarantees success in any of the techniques we use, because it allows us to feel the symptoms of astral projection more easily. But if we are people who fall asleep very easily, it is not advisable to spend too much time relaxing, so as not to fall asleep in that process. Once we are well relaxed, then we begin, in the case of the mantra chanting technique, to pronounce the mantra that we have chosen for that practice. If we choose the mantra Fa Ra On, we begin to pronounce it by lengthening each syllable, while we imagine the shape of a pyramid on our forehead. And, concentrating on that pyramid, we chant the mantra out loud several times. Let's remember that in each pronunciation, we are going to lengthen the sound of the mantra for a maximum of 6 seconds, and not saying it too loudly because the objective is to call sleep. So, we will pronounce it softly and naturally. After pronouncing it out loud several times, we begin to lower our voice, until we continue pronouncing the mantra mentally, until we feel any of the symptoms of unfolding. This mantra is recited as follows.
Fa Ra On. Fa Ra On. Fa Ra On. Fa Ra On.
After chanting it, about 10 or 15 times, out loud, you lower your voice, until you continue singing it mentally. If you decide to do the practice with the mantra La Ras, when chanting this, we concentrate on the point in the middle of the eyebrows. You can imagine a purple light there and pronounce the mantra.
La Ras. La Ras. La Ras. La Ras.
In the same way, you must pronounce it out loud several times. Then, you begin to lower your voice until you continue pronouncing the mantra mentally, until you feel some of the symptoms that will let you know that the astral projection process is taking place. Another mantra that we can use is We chant this one while focusing on our heart. This mantra is especially good for those who don't fall asleep easily, because it is a mantra that causes you to fall asleep quickly, and to soon experience the astral projection symptoms. On the other hand, for those who fall asleep very easily, the following mantra is recommended. We chant this, concentrated in the larynx. Doing this mantra while being well concentrated generates a strong vibration that allows consciousness to not fall so quickly into sleep, so that we can become aware of the symptoms. And another mantra we could use is We chant this while concentrating our attention on the point in the middle of the eyebrows. We chant the mantra out loud several times, then lower our voice until we continue chanting the mantra mentally. We continue saying it mentally until we feel that any of the symptoms that occur when the astral projection process is being experienced increase. Some of the symptoms you could experience are Feeling like your body is swelling. Feeling like you start to float. Feeling your body gently swaying. You may feel your legs or arms lift and float. You may feel a tingling sensation throughout your body, or a vibrating sensation. You may feel a slight jolt. You might feel like you are spinning at high speed. Or you could also feel a noise next to your ears. When you feel any of these symptoms, don't panic or get too excited, but relax even more, let yourself go, and continue applying the technique until the symptom increases a lot. When you feel that the symptom has increased a lot, then you gently get out of bed and check to see if you are already unfolded on the astral plane. Keep in mind that in the astral dimension everything can look exactly the same as in the physical, so it is always good to get up and check when you feel the symptoms. You check by getting out of bed and taking a small jump with the intention of floating. If you stay floating, it is because you are already on the astral plane. Another way to check is by stretching your finger with the intention of making it lengthen, as if it were made of rubber, or by trying to go through something with your hand, for example, trying to go through the wall or the bed. If it turns out that you are already in the astral, then remember the goal you set for yourself, and ask your inner father to guide you towards that goal. If when you check to see if you are already projected in the astral plane, you discover that you are still in the physical body, because you are not floating, or your finger is not stretched, then you return to bed and continue with the technique you were using. When you experience any of the symptoms again, allow it to increase even more and check again until you achieve it. Let's keep in mind not to extend the mantra more than 6 seconds with each exhalation. Let's also keep in mind to pronounce the mantra softly so as not to scare away sleep, and to use only one mantra per practice. And practice with a lot of patience, discipline, and perseverance until you achieve it, since practice makes perfect. And this has been today's topic. I hope that this information is useful for you to achieve and improve your ability to achieve astral projection. I invite you to the next topic that we will study in the course. A super interesting topic titled Duality. In that topic we will talk about the purpose of our existence, and the 10 steps we must take to achieve the intimate self-realization of the being. Don't miss it,